survey posted in the lobby of this virtual meeting while you were waiting. If you missed it, don't worry, it's not too late to complete it. Please go to the chat feature of this Zoom and complete the pre-event survey. Welcome. Now, let's let me extend a heartfelt welcome, and in the spirit of sisterhood tonight, please join me in receiving Miss Kanita Pitts, chapter member, followed by our illustrious president, Miss Valerie Bird.
Greetings. I am Kanita Pitts, and thank you for joining us for the I Deserve to Breathe Beyond Survival, Self-Care as a Pathway to Healing from Intergenerational Trauma webinar presented by the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated, Columbia, South Carolina chapter. Our amazing guest speakers will share strategies, tools, and resources to restore, reaffirm, and empower you throughout your journey of self-care, self-love, healing, boundary setting, and breaking the cycle of intergenerational trauma. But before we get started on this pathway of enlightenment and new beginnings, it is indeed an honor to introduce the president of the Columbia, South Carolina chapter as she brings you the official welcome for this evening. Please welcome our illustrious president, Valerie Bird.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar. The National Coalition of 100 Black Women, 100 chapter here in Columbia, South Carolina, where we are the only chapter in the state of South Carolina, are very proud to have you all with us this evening. And you are welcome to attend future events that we have coming up, as well as take away some of this information and share it with the community to help us help our community to be more informed and more aware of all of these important topics, such as tonight's event. We hope that you enjoy and also come back and visit us again. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, Madam President and Ms. Kanita Pitts. At this time, it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Kelly Yates, chapter member, who will introduce our distinguished guest speakers for this evening's webinar.
It is my pleasure to introduce two dynamic speakers for tonight's presentation. Our first speaker is Ms. Christelle Baxter. Ms. Christelle Baxter is a licensed professional counselor from Charleston, South Carolina, with 10 years of experience in the mental health and human services field. She earned a Master of Arts in Counseling and a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, with specialized training and extensive research in psychotherapy, cognitive processes, and behavior therapy. Her experience includes developing treatment plans, facilitating multidisciplinary teams, providing social work services, and guiding families and youth through complex emotional and behavioral challenges. Christelle has delivered both individual and group therapy in clinical settings to include school-based and in-home therapy. With strong clinical experience, leadership, and collaboration skills, she's passionate about helping clients navigate trauma, mental illness, and life transitions while fostering lasting growth and well-being. Our second presenter for tonight is Ms. Shawn Ellis Robinson. She is a writer, educator, and author who holds sacred space for women to remember who they are through meditation, reflective journaling, and practices that restore both soul and emotional balance. She's also the founder of the Well Rested Teacher, a sanctuary for educators to release survival patterns, restore their energy, reclaim their energy, restore their spirits, and reach a place of calm and ease. Through her books and classes, Shawn guides women and teachers alike to reconnect with their authentic selves, cultivate inner peace, and move through life anchored in wholeness and emotional resilience. Without further ado, I'd like to present to you all Ms. Baxter. You may begin.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. It is so nice to be here today. So today we are going to be diving into intergenerational trauma. It's the kind of pain that doesn't just affect one person, but can ripple through families and communities. The good news is we will also kind of talk about how self-care can move us beyond survival and into healing, and also we'll unpack not just inherited pain, but also the silent strength that is passed down. So let's start by defining what intergenerational trauma means. Oh, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So, intergenerational trauma is trauma that is passed down across generations. It can be carried in many ways through silence, when families don't talk about difficult events, through behaviors, when coping strategies kind of repeat themselves unconsciously, and even through biology, like the way stress impacts the body. And so we see this not in just individuals, but again, across families and across communities. So if you kind of just think for a moment, what kind of unspoken lessons or patterns have you noticed in your own family or community? And so it would be maybe kind of some of those things that are passed down.
Independence.
Yeah. So ACEs, the science of trauma. So one of the largest studies on trauma is the CDC Kaiser ACEs study. So ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. They are stressful or traumatic events that can occur in childhood or adolescence. Sorry. All right, sorry. So some of the ACEs include abuse, such as physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, neglect, physical or emotional neglect, and household challenges. Some of the household challenges include substance abuse, parental mental illness, witnessing domestic violence in the household, maybe separated or divorced parents, and sometimes even incarcerated parents. It is found that about 67% of adults report at least one ACE, so being in one of these types of situations in childhood. And 1 in 6 people report having or experiencing at least 4 or more of these adverse childhood experiences. The higher the ACE score, the more likely that person is to face challenges later in life. So I don't know if y'all can really see, but it's a little diagram in the background of this, and it's just a scale of showing what can happen. So as a result, depression is one of the things that can maybe happen later on in life. Risk of alcoholism or risk of suicide attempts are some of the risks that can happen when you experience ACEs. Let's see, we can go to the next slide now. So now we are going to kind of look at what trauma does inside the body. So biologically, trauma can change the way our genes are expressed. This process is called epigenetics, and these are changes that can be passed down from just kind of the changes in your genes. Neurologically, trauma overactivates the amygdala, the brain's fear center, which manages memory, and it can weaken the prefrontal cortex, which helps with decision making and self-control, things like that. Behaviorally, children often copy survival strategies from their parents. Some of those can include mistrust of others, maybe avoiding emotions or staying silent. Trauma can also affect attachment styles, so how people feel safe in relationships, or how they are in relationships. This is the behavior that manifests in certain types of relationships. So when we say trauma can be inherited, it's not just a metaphor. It's a lived reality in biology, behavior, and in relationships. Slide, please. Trauma isn't the only thing that is passed down. So strength is passed down also. Oftentimes when people think about trauma, they think about a lot of the negative effects that come from it. But families often carry forward incredible resilience, perseverance, and creativity. If you kind of think about some cultural traditions like music, food, rituals, storytelling, these are some protective factors, identity. They help people have belonging and healing. For example, your grandmother may have always made sure everyone was fed, even when there wasn't much food. That taught the family resourcefulness and community care. Think about a strength or a tradition or a value that your parents may have handed down to you. And this is ways that this trauma is, or the silence of it is, the strength of it is passed down through the generation. Because of course you will use what your grandparents told you and you will tell your children, who will then in turn tell their children.
Ms. Baxter, if you wouldn't mind, I know we're getting a lot of feedback from your microphone. I'm not sure what it is, and I really want to make sure that our audience is getting all of this really great information from you.
Okay.
Do you think that, are you able to log out and log back in quickly? Do you think that will resolve the issue? That should only take a couple of seconds. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, would you mind doing that? And we will wait right here for you and let you back in.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
no problem. Okay, I think I was on the next slide now. Or do you want me to review this one again? So how do we heal from intergenerational trauma? There are several evidence-based approaches. We have trauma-focused CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. This helps people reframe from trauma narratives and build coping skills. EMDR, eye movement desensitivity, uses eye movements to help the brain reprocess painful memories so that they lose their intensity. Somatic therapies like yoga, breath work, or somatic experiences help release trauma that is stored in the body. And family or narrative therapy helps break cycles of silence, allowing families to rewrite their stories from survival to resistance. Each of these approaches shows us that healing is not just possible, it is well researched and effective. Next slide, please. So, of course, healing isn't a one size fits all model. We have to tailor it. And so, using things like cultural sensitivity is key. Incorporating traditions, language, or rituals makes therapy more meaningful. Community-based care is also powerful. To have peer support, healing circles, group therapy, and in between sessions, self-care practices like journaling, grounding exercises, and boundaries help reinforce progress. Healing is strongest when it honors both personal and cultural identity. Next slide. Okay, so to make this a little bit more practical, here are a few self-care strategies that can help anyone. So grounding exercises, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. Name 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 you taste. It calms the nervous system and is really just as simple as that. You can do it wherever you are. Journaling is another practical strategy that can be used. And so you will just write down family patterns that you notice, and then write how you want to change things differently and create an action plan to try and do so. Rest is important. Choosing rest can be a radical act of healing in families that survived constant overwork. With community care, healing doesn't happen alone. Safe circles and supportive relationships are also medicine. So, having that group of people that is your go-to for when you need to, have an outlet is just as good medicine and just as good as a coping strategy. So here's the bigger picture. Trauma is real, but so is healing. And so we inherit both pain and wisdom. And with self care, we can move from survival to growth. This is a generation where cycles can break, where silence can turn into storytelling and pain into purpose. And so I'll close with this. We inherit not just wounds, but wisdom. And by caring for ourselves, we heal the past and shape a different future. Thank you for your time. So I encourage you all to carry forward one small act of self-care this week for yourself, for your family, and for the generations to come.
Thank you again, Ms. Baxter, for and did I interrupt you? Okay, thank you again for a fantastic presentation in which I've learned some things on how to identify trauma, ways to look at it, just not from a negative part, but looking at the strengths from those, from the trauma experience, and then finding ways to identify practical exercises on how to heal and self-care. So again, thank you so much for that. And now we're going to move forward to another excited. I'm excited about what you just given to us. And now we're excited for Ms. Sean Ellis Robinson to come up with some additional tips and tools we can learn for self-care and healing.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Crystal, for that rich information. Greetings, beautiful souls. I am Sean, and it wasn't until I became an adult that I even heard the term generational trauma. And I realized that it's not just physical trauma, but it's the stories and the untold stories and the things that I saw as a little girl that would stay with me as an adult. And many of us carry that tension within our bodies, not just from our own lives, but again, from the things that we saw as little girls sitting on grandmama's porch, or as a little girl listening to mama talk on the phone to her girlfriends, and seeing different things in our neighborhoods, and not realizing that what we see is truly making an impression on us. And so our mothers and our grandmothers and our ancestors held their breath for survival. And when I began my healing journey, I realized that I held my own breath. When I was angry, when I was upset, when I swallowed my emotions, when I was too afraid to speak out and speak up of how I really felt, I was living outside of personal integrity, which meant what I thought, what I feel, what I said, and what I did was not in alignment. It was not congruent because I was holding my breath and holding on to this trauma that I had not yet identified. But when I learned the power of breath, and I learned that breath is life force energy, when I learned that breath connects me to the divine, when I learned that breath connects me to my divine higher self and the God that's within me, I woke up and remembered who I was. And so now I use breath as a tool for my soul work. I use breath as a tool for healing. Because even when we do our soul work, even when we accept and become aware of generational trauma and we begin to do the work, we have to release that energy out of our bodies. And breath work is one of my go-to tools. So I'm going to teach you 2 ways so that you can use breath work to support you in your healing journey. One of those techniques is dropping the breath. And it's such a simple tool. We sit and rest in our bodies. And we take a deep breath, hold it, and then drop it. And it's important that we hear the breath come out of our mouths because the healing is on the and when we do that, it recenters our bodies. It wakes up our soul consciousness to say, okay, I need to become present. What happened 15 years ago, or what happened 15 minutes ago, or 5 minutes does not affect where I am and who I am right now. And so before I even move on, I'm going to ask you and invite you to just close your eyes and rest in the theme of this conference. I deserve to breathe. And when you are ready, I want you to take a deep breath, hold it, and drop the breath. See, feel, imagine, intended to be so, that as you drop the breath, any emotional conflict, any thoughts that no longer serve you, anything that is within your body is being released. Take a deep inhale in through the nose, hold it, and drop the breath. And now just begin to breathe at your normal pace. If you're sitting in a chair, place your feet flat on the floor. Imagine that you're grounding into the earth and that you are supported by the whole earth. Sit tall in your chair, hands in your lap, remembering who you are, a unique, creative, signature expression of God in the earth. Continue to breathe. See, feel, imagine, intended to be so, that there is a divine white light underneath the bottom of your feet. With each inhale, imagine this light traveling through your toes, your legs, over your knees, your thighs, through your fingertips, your forearms and elbow, your upper arm in the center of your body, into your throat, as it covers your cheeks, your nose, your eyes, and allow this light to cover your entire crown. Continue to breathe. Allow this light to go into the secret places within you. Set an intention that it finds those places that you have been holding on to emotional resistance. Allow the light to travel to those places that you have been holding on into your mind, the thoughts, the stories that you continue to ruminate in your mind, the stories that you replay over and over and over again. Allow the light to heal it, to cleanse it, to clear and consecrate your mind. Continue to breathe. See, feel, and imagine that this light washes over every cell in your body and regenerates it, makes it new. Continue to breathe. Allow this light to release any tension that you're holding into your body. Set an intention to allow the light to find it. Clear it, cleanse it, consecrate it. Tension does not belong in your body. Continue to breathe. On each exhale, set an intention that you are releasing everything that no longer serves you from your body. Breathe. As your body is clearing, listen to these empowering thought forms. I deserve to breathe. I am worthy of living a life of ease. Breathe. Rest, joy, happiness, peace, love, light. All everything that God is, I am. Breathe. See, feel, imagine, intended to be so, that now this divine, sacred, white light is traveling from the crown of your head, over your face, down your throat, over your shoulders, your back, through the center of your being, down your arms, through your fingertips, down your legs, into your toes, and allow it to rest under the bottom of your feet. And know that at any time, you can breathe and bring forth the light. Know that wherever you walk, the light is with you. All you need to do is take a breath. Collectively, let's take a deep breath in, hold it, and drop the breath. Again, inhale, Hold it and drop the breath. One last time, a big inhale in through the nose. Hold it and drop the breath. Begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes, letting your body know that you're back present in the room. And whenever you're ready, you can slowly and gently open your eyes. Thank you for joining me on this breath journey. I'm going to drop a resource in the chat for you as well.
Wow. I don't know how to, I don't want to break the silence. How amazing was that? Stay in this space, however long you need to. And at this time, we will open the floor for your voices, your questions, and your reflections. Guiding us through this important exchange will be Miss Ariel Wesley, our chapter member. Ariel, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chapman. And again, thank you so much, Ms. Baxter and Ms. Robinson, for that phenomenal presentation. I know I've taken away a lot from it. So at this moment, we are going to open the floor for questions. You're welcome to unmute yourself or type in the chat if that's something you're more comfortable with. Seems like we have a shy crowd tonight. So I will start. Ms. Robinson, what led you into breath work?
So a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, maybe around 2015, 2016, I was getting a little weary going to church, and seems like I wasn't growing, I wasn't learning, something was missing, seems like there was something that I wasn't connecting with. And so I just began to pray and ask God, well, what am I missing? Why I'm not connected? And it led me to a book called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And it started talking about prayer and meditation. And so I began to do that, and I began to feel more grounded. I began to feel more connected. And it led me to doing some more researching and to see how I can learn more about life skills, meditation, and prayer. So I started Googling this, and what came up from the search at the very top was an organization called Institute for Spiritual Development. And as I began reading, it was founded by Iyanla Vanzant. And so in there, it was talking about on her site, it was talking about prayer and meditation and breath work and healing your inner child wounds and healing generational trauma. So the deadline had passed for an application to attend this year-long healing journey, right, to become a spiritual life coach. But I said, you know what, I'm just going to submit my application anyway. long story short, I got accepted. And so I had to spend a um, year long with her and the elders of the village. And what I thought was I was going to learn how to become a spiritual life coach. What really happened was I went on my own spiritual journey because I can't be a spiritual life coach. I can't teach breath work. I can't teach meditation unless I go through my own journey. And so that's how that journey of healing began for me. And so that was 2015 to now, and I'm still here doing that.
Thank you so much. In the chat, we have a question from Ms. Baxter. Can you elaborate on rest as resistance and healing?
Yes. So it's just as simple as it sounds. So just kind of taking that time for yourself, not being overloaded. I know a lot of times in the American culture community, people work a lot. Do 3 jobs a lot of the times. Um, taking care of kids, families, other people in your family, and sometimes assuming the responsibility for others that are not yours to carry all the time. So just kind of taking a rest and I guess for lack of better word, not doing too much, all the time. So just making sure that you take that time for yourself so that you can be yourself others. Of course, you can't pour into others if you have nothing to pour, if you're depleted. So
Absolutely, you can't pour for. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
resting way
interrupt. I apologize.
that you can. It can be physical. Oh, no problem. Can y'all hear me pretty good?
There's a little bit of feedback.
Okay. What about now?
I can hear you. Can everyone else hear her?
Yes.
Okay.
It's good.
Okay. But thank you both. For the interest of time,
Just taking a rest. I'm doing self-care,
I'm so sorry.
basically whatever you can to provide self-care for yourself.
So, and we do need to be mindful of how we pour into others. For the interest of time, I am going to close questions. However, if anybody has any other questions, you can place it in the chat. Please place your name and your contact information, and someone will be in touch with you regarding any additional questions you have. At this point, I'm going to pass this over to Kimberly Joseph, my cohort sister and chapter member, to discuss the closing evaluations.
Thank you. What an incredible event. Healing begins within, transform trauma into triumph, truly reminded us of the power of self-care and healing and growth. We hope you are leaving today with tools and encouragement for your own journey of transformation. But before we close, we would love to hear your thoughts. Please take just a couple of minutes to complete the event evaluation by scanning the QR code on the screen. Your feedback helps us improve and continue offering meaningful sessions like this one. Thank you again for being here, and at this time, I will turn it back over to our moderator, Dr. Chapman.
Wow, ladies. Wow, just wow, wow, wow. As we bring our program to a close tonight, we are reminded once again of tonight's theme. I deserve to breathe. May we leave this virtual space carrying the truth in our bodies, our spirits, and our daily lives. To share final reflections and words of gratitude, please welcome back Ms. Kelly Yates, and our wonderful chapter president, Ms. Valerie Bird.
Again, I'm echoing the sentiments of everyone and just reading the chat. What a wonderful event. Thank you all so much for what you've done to help us learn how to breathe again. On behalf of the Health Committee of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated Columbia Chapter, thank you again, Ms. Baxter and Ms. Robinson, for providing a phenomenal, and I do mean phenomenal, presentation on self-care for us that will be a lasting impression on each one of us. Because we are in a virtual space this evening, on a future date, we would like to present you with a token of our appreciation for making this such an outstanding event. And so now I present to you Madam President, Ms. Valerie Bird, once again to close us out. Madam President.
Well, all I can say, Ms. Baxter, Ms. Robinson, and to our guests and coalition sisters, who was meant to be here tonight is here tonight, right? We all needed this.
Yes.
I just want to package this. I'm sure we're going to listen to this recording several times, but I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for your time and your effort and pouring into us, because we know how busy we all are and giving to our community, our family, and others, but quite often we forget about ourselves. And especially being women of color, there's even more pressure, right, ladies? But I just want to say thank you, and to our guests, this has been an awesome beginning to our new year, and we welcome you back to join us again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam President and Ms. Kelly Yates. On behalf of the Columbia, South Carolina chapter of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, thank each of you for joining us this evening of rest, reflection, and radical self-care. Remember, you are worthy, you are whole, and you deserve to breathe. Go in peace and have a peaceful evening. Good night.
Yay.
Well job. Good job, everyone. Thank you.